Chapter 16. Saturday was cold but clear. When the team had assembled at Cedar Grove, Dave handed out new warm-up suits from their sponsor, Slick. They were black with the diamond logo in blue and silver on the back of the jacket. They were perfect for a day like this one. The race was at 1 p.m. It was an hour's ride away. They left at 10. Dave drove them up in his van. He talked about the weather, school, movies. Sean, sitting up in front with Dave, seemed to be explaining the highlights of every video game ever made. Paul and Tony started a game of Would You Rather. Would you rather be a penguin or a giraffe? Would you rather live at the North Pole or the equator? Would you rather get caught in a sandstorm or fall in quicksand? Would you rather eat a cheeseburger with chocolate sauce on it or a pancake soaked in pickle juice? Oh, man, does anyone else smell pickles? Asked Tony. I'm hungry. Paul laughed. You're always hungry. He asked the next question. Would you rather do 1,000 math questions or be thrown into a den of lions? Lions, answered Tony with a grin, punching Sam lightly on the arm. Would you rather get attacked by a shark or gored by a warthog? What kind of a question was that? Jake would rather they stopped playing for a while. He was trying to focus, to prepare for the race, to get in the zone. But they just kept talking and talking and talking. All except Sam. He was working on a Sudoku. Ah, Dave, piped up Jake when there was a lull in the gaming conversation. Yes, sir. Isn't there anything we should be doing now to prepare for the race? No, just relax, I guess. Well, do we know who the main competition is? Dave's eye flicked to the rearview mirror to scan the back of the van. It's a big race, he commented, but I don't want you guys to worry about that. I just want you to do your best. There will be a lot of runners, but they aren't the enemy. They're just other guys out there, doing their best. The park in Deep Rapids was a busy place. Conveners and course monitors were giving and getting instructions. Coaches were reading clipboards or chatting. Groups of runners were walking and stretching. Parents were warming up with coffee and hot chocolate. The yellow caution tape marking parts of the course flapped in the stiff breeze, and the bright orange pylons indicating the turns flashed in the sun. The boys went with Dave to register and pick up their numbers. Dave had brought along a small tent to keep their gear in, and they pitched it under a huge tree. Dave led them through a long set of stretches, and then they had a light snack. They did a walkthrough of the course together. Pay attention, amigos, said Dave. We don't want anyone to get lost. Just follow the guy in front of you, joked Sean. What if he's lost? Dave laughed. Jake took everything in, every detail. He had every intention of being the one out front. The starting line stretched across a large field next to a picnic shelter. They would run the length of the field and then follow a path around a huge pond where there were hundreds of ducks. It was going to be important to cross that field quickly so they wouldn't get caught in the bottleneck at the trailhead. After the pond, the trail wound through the woods. It was narrow there. Be hard to pass anyone on that stretch. Then it opened out along the lake shore where there was lots of space, but it was going to be tough running in the sand, and the wind was brutal out in the open. After a section of small hills back in the trees, runners would return to the field from the other end and run through a taped-marked trough up to the finish at the picnic shelter. Remember, said Dave, you're not finished when you reach the tape. Don't stop pumping until you cross that line. Dave had them warm up with a few short runs and some strides across the field. Get a drink, you guys, he called, and then come on in for a huddle. It was 12:45. The Diamond team stood together in a circle, arms across each other's shoulders. Dave grinned. Well, here we are. You boys have worked hard, and you're ready for this. You're ready here, he pointed to his feet, and here, he tapped his temple, and here, he put one hand over his heart. You can do this. Run hard Run smart. It's a team event. You're a great team. Do your best. I'm proud of you." Jake wondered how Dave could be proud of them when they hadn't even run yet. He intended to earn that pride. Just wait until he showed Dave what he could do. Paul let out a loud cheer. "Let's kick up some of that diamond dust." Dave shook his head and laughed. They peeled off their warm-up suits, dropped them in the tent, and made their way to the starting line. It sure was chilly. There was a solid wall of runners, 200 at least, in all different colors of jerseys: red, blue, orange, yellow, green, purple, white, black, and silver. Dave had the boys line up one behind the other from the line: Sam, Jake, Paul, Sean, Tony. Paul was jumping up and down. Sean was doing some sort of deep breathing. Tony cracked his knuckles and looked for a place to throw out his gum. Dave wrapped it up in a receipt he found in his jacket pocket. Sam just stood, silent, waiting. Jake felt tense, but tried to focus. "Mental toughness," he said to himself. "Be the toughest one out there." A big man in a red jacket strode out into the field. "Welcome to the regional race," he boomed through his megaphone. "It is 1 p.m. on my watch, and this is the event for 12-year-old boys. You've all been through the course, and if you haven't, you'll get your chance shortly." He chuckled. "I wish you well. Runners, take your marks." Jake took a deep breath and moved in behind Sam. "Get set. Focus. Focus. A good start was key." Bang! The gun went off and the line surged ahead. Sam sprinted across the field and Jake made sure to stay right behind him. They moved with about 20 runners to the head of the pack and found a place on the path around the pond. Jake heard someone huffing and puffing beside him and looked over to find Paul grinning wildly as he passed him. Jake was tempted to sprint up to him, but it didn't feel right. It was too fast. If he ran that way now, he'd have nothing left later. Jake struggled to find a good rhythm. He tucked back in behind Sam and tried to steady himself. Flocks of ducks exploded into the air as the runners pounded around the first turn. There were 6, maybe 7 runners ahead of Sam. "The pond, the trees, the lake, the hills," chanted Jake to himself. "The pond, the trees, the lake, the hills." They had almost completed the loop around the water and were looking to head into the woods when Jake saw Sam veer right to pass. Jake followed. It was Paul. He wasn't grinning anymore and was running with one hand clenched hard to his side like he had a cramp. "I knew it was too fast," thought Jake. "Stay in it, Paul," called Sam. "Go Diamond." That left 6 guys to pass. "The trees, the lake, the hills, the field," thought Jake, panting. "The trees, the lake, the hills, the field." "Looking great, guys," a voice called out. Jake jumped. There was Dave stepping out from among the trees alongside the trail. How did he get there? "There's a bit of a clearing up ahead if you can use it." Breathe in, breathe out. In, out. In, out. Arms pumping, legs beginning to burn. Focus, focus. The trail did widen out a bit, as Dave had said, and Sam used the opportunity to pass the runner in front of him and slide back into position just before it narrowed again. Smooth, thought Jake. He had moved right with him. 5 left out front. Watch out for rocks, for roots, for low-hanging branches. In, out, all the way through the woods. They felt the temperature change as they charged out onto the beach. Angry waves pounded the shore, and the wind slapped at them and tore at the numbers pinned to their jerseys. The coarse sand churned under their feet. The lake, the hills, the field, the trough. The lake, the hills, the field, the trough. Jake's calf muscles screamed at him to pack it in. His shoulders hurt. His lungs ached. Bonk, bonk. Where's that little door? He asked himself. Find that little door. He was breathing hard. Squinting against the wind and the sand made his head hurt. Then Dave stepped out from behind a huge rock. That's it, fellas. How's this for wind sprints? Keep it up. More of the same. You got this. His hood was tied so tightly, his face was all scrunched up. Jake laughed out loud. Man, that looked funny. But Dave's voice was loud and clear, and Jake suddenly felt stronger. Jake moved slightly to the right to get out of the spray of sand that Sam was kicking up. Just ahead were the pylons marking the entrance to the trail through the trees. He'd be out of the wind and back on firm ground. Jake felt a charge of energy. Just a little bit further to the trees. He followed as Sam kicked in with a quick burst of speed to pass 2 runners just ahead of the pylons. 3 left in the lead. The change to being out of the wind was so sudden Jake almost fell over. After all that fighting, he felt like he was floating. Switch gears, short strides up the hills, longer steps down. The hills, the field, the trough, the finish. The hills, the field, the trough, the finish. Keep going, keep going. 1 foot in front of the other. Breathe in, breathe out. Jake stayed focused on the silver jersey in front of him. Steady, steady. Then Sam caught a root and stumbled. He threw his hands out in front of him and was up again in an instant. Behind him, Jake jumped the root and pulled even. "Keep going, Jake," said Sam. Jake looked over at him. Sam waved him on as he tried to find his rhythm again. There was a flicker of pain in his eyes. Should I stop? Thought Jake. I should wait. I should make sure Sam is all right. I'm okay, Sam panted. Keep going, Jake. Go for it. Sam nodded. Jake hesitated for a split second, then nodded back. Go Diamond, called Sam as Jake took off. He sprinted up behind a small kid in a yellow jersey. For a short time they were matched stride for stride, but Jake's stride was longer and he soon moved out front. A white shirt and a red one were all that remained. Up, down, in, out. Focus, focus. Jake pulled up behind the runner in white. He had a good rhythm going, but his breathing was pretty ragged. Looking to his right, Jake saw sunlight streaming through the trees and realized they were coming up along the field already. The field, the turn, the trough, the finish. Dig deep. He launched himself off his toes and pulled past the white shirt. One more. This guy was a great runner. No wonder he was out front. His movements were smooth and fluid. His stride was even and his breathing controlled. Over a black long-sleeve shirt, he wore a red jersey with some type of logo on the back that Jake couldn't make out. And he had a black knit hat on his head. Step it up, Jake told himself. Step it up, just a little. They were in the field now, coming up on the turn into the tape. Dave leaned in from where he stood along the side. Let it all out now, Jake. It's time. Let it go. Jake's legs felt like logs. His lungs were on fire. Bulldogs, he thought. That's what it said on the back of that guy's jersey. Bulldogs. He could read it now. He was that close. The turn, the trough, the finish. The turn, the trough, the finish. Dig, 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 dig. Jake found another gear and started to sprint. They were in the trough now, tape flapping on either side. He pulled up next to the red runner. Their arms were pumping, their legs were churning. Run, run, run to run, run to run. Jake felt like a weight was slowly lifting off him. He looked up at the blue sky and he sucked in the cold air and he found himself grinning. He didn't think about the other guy. He didn't think about his legs. He didn't think about his lungs. He didn't feel the ache in his shoulders. He didn't feel anything but free and fast. Run, run. Don't stop running till you cross the line. Don't stop running. Don't stop. Don't. Jake summoned every little bit of energy he could find left inside, and he flew across the finish line. First place, Jake Jarvis.